Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. The last verse in Surah Al-Baqarah is verse 286. So this is the longest surah in the Quran. And one easy way to remember it is that if you do half of 286, if you guys remember I mentioned this before, half of 286 is what? 143. And in verse 143, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we have made you ummatan wasata, a middle nation, exactly in the middle of the surah. Multiply by 2, verse 286. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. That Allah will not hold any soul more accountable than it can handle, than it can take. And there's a very important lesson in that, is that Allah is not going to test you with more than you can handle. So whatever you're going through, you know you can handle it. Even though you don't feel like it, you can, inshallah. And then he says, لَهَا مَا كَسَبَتْ وَعَلَيْهَا مَا اكْتَسَبَتْ. He says, for it is what it earned, and against it, it is what it earned. So this laha, the ha, meaning it, is referring back to something, because a pronoun, dhamir in Arabic, it refers back to something that's already mentioned. What is it referring back to? It's feminine. What is it referring to? To the word nafs. Because nafs in Arabic is a feminine word. It means the soul, the person. We say every person's soul. So Allah says that every soul, every person, because the soul is what defines a human being. Every person, their soul is going to have what they earned, and against it on the Day of Judgment is going to be what it earned. So the scholars, they looked and they said, you know what? Why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the word kasabat in one word, and then in the other word he used the word iktasabat? And if you look in the dictionary, kasabat means earned. Iktasabat means earned. Has the same meaning. So what's the difference? So scholars explain that in the field, this is something I learned from Sheikh Abul Hasan al-Nadwi, one of the great scholars of Islam, rahimahullah, passed away in the end of the century. He said that if we study al-Musarf, the science of morphology in Arabic, there's one simple principle, is that the more letters you have, additional mazid fi letters you have, the more meaning there is. So kasabat means to earn. And if you say iktasabat, there's an additional meaning, something earned. What is the additional meaning here? It's usually between 3 to 6 potential options when you study Arabic grammar in detail. And this one is known as takalluf. And takalluf is an Arabic word. It's also in Urdu, and I think it's maybe in Farsi and maybe in other languages. Takalluf means when you go out of your way to do something. You go out of your way and you make it difficult to do that thing. That's what takalluf means. So they say the word kasabat, that whenever you do something good, you earn that good deed. Whenever you do something bad that you're going to be accountable for on the Day of Judgment, it's iktasabat with takalluf, meaning you had to go against your nature in order to do that bad thing. So this is one ayah in the Quran which answers the question that philosophers and thinkers have been trying to answer for centuries. Everyone has a different opinion. Are human beings good by nature, or they're evil by nature? Or somewhere in between? And Islam is very clear on this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made people with desires, of course. They have a nafs, they have ego, they have so many shahawat, but they're good essentially by their nature. And there's a hadith about fitrah, and everyone is born on the fitrah, and there's a natural disposition and all of that. This is one of those verses where there's an ishara, there's an indication that shows that when human beings do a good deed, they earned it through their nature. And when they do a bad deed, they have to go against their very nature in order to earn that bad deed. And there's something built into these things in the Quran that we can appreciate when we study things in a little bit more detail. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among the people who focus on earning the good deeds. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us away from doing takalluf and earning those bad deeds. Ameen. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum.